is Jacqueline, and I will be doing my presentation on implementing Embrace in San Miguel, Zacatecas, Mexico. First, I want to talk a little bit about what Embrace is. Embrace is basically an infant sleeping bag that contains a little pouch that helps keep the baby warm for a extended period amount of time. And Embrace is actually a new technology that was just invented by the students from Stanford University. So now I want to talk about how Embrace works, which Embrace is my technology that I will be implementing. First, it's actually very simple. First, you get the pouch that is inside the sleeping bag. You put it on either a heating pad or boiling water for 10 to 15 minutes. Then you put that heating pad or heating pouch into the sleeping bag. And the sleeping bag will keep the baby warm between 97 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit for up to 4 hours or more. And then it will steadily decrease in temperature. There's actually also an indicator in the back of the sleeping bag that will let you know when you need to take out the pouch. And also, one of the concerns may be if the sleeping bag gets too warm. Well, there is the phase change material that this sleeping bag is made out of will release heat if it gets to be too hot, and it will also absorb heat if it starts to get too cold too quickly. And to top it off, the pouch can be heated hundreds and hundreds of times. Now I'll talk a little bit about San Miguel, Zacatecas. San Miguel, Zacatecas is actually my mom's hometown, and I've actually visited it several times. It is a small, little rural, poor town outside of some big cities. So it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to go to any big city. So if someone were to get sick or anything like that, someone has to drive 30 to 45 minutes just to get Tylenol or any kind of medication whatsoever. All the homes in this town are all man-made and mostly made out of brick or concrete, so there is minimal to no insulation whatsoever. Although it has pretty mild temperatures, during the winter it does get very cold. It gets up to 30 degrees or below, not to mention when it rains. I personally have been there when it gets pretty cold, and it's very, very cold. And to top it off, being that it's a rural town, they have outhouses, and so at least 100 yards away from most of the living quarters. So forget about getting up in the middle of the night and using the restroom, because it's very, very cold and extremely dark, because there's no lights or street lights or anything like that, so you never know what's going to be out there in that house, what kind of animal or anything like that. So and although there are no statistics as far as infant deaths or anything like that, there's no statistics on infant births necessarily. Because it's such a rural town, everybody's born indoors. And because they're so far away, 30 to 45 minutes from town, most of the babies aren't registered as born until months or even years later. It's kind of a joke within my family that they all have different birth dates on their actual birth certificates than their actual birthday. So sometimes some of my uncles will celebrate their birthdays on their birth certificate birthday or on their actual birthday. It just depends on what they prefer. My mom's birthday actually is a completely different year from her actual birthday. So I think she's actually younger on her birth certificate than she actually is, but she doesn't mind, obviously. But just considering all this stuff, there's no statistics even on anything. But being that my family's from that town, being that I visited that town, I know that there have been a lot of infant deaths due to kids getting sick, which I think a lot of it has to do with them being cold, especially during the winter months. Babies' bodies aren't as efficient, so they need that extra warmth to stay at a temperature that's good for them. And I think implementing this Embrace would actually help the town a great deal. My goal and plan for this implementing Embrace was just to bring Embrace San Miguel, Zacatecas, Mexico, and especially to keep the infants warm during the winter months. Also, my plan to finance this whole thing is just, hit all the big corporations and try to get funding that way, to try to get at least some there. It's kind of a small town, so it wouldn't take too much funding, and I think once they would see results on that, they would be more willing to fund for other projects in other small towns in Mexico. Most people think of Mexico as a warm place to go during vacation, but you know, Mexico is a very, very big place, and not all the places are warm. And although San Miguel Zacatecas is relatively mild, it's more in the mountains. People don't necessarily go there to vacation, and like I said, it does get cold at night during the winter. And ideally, I'd like to start to bring the embrace during October or a little before. That way they have the embraces there when they want to use them for the winter months. One of my anticipated problems, and my only anticipated problems for this project, would be if there's no way for someone to be able to warm the pouch. For the most part, most of the families in this town should not have a problem warming the pouch. If you even have a wood-burning stove, that should be just fine to warm in a pot some water to warm the pouch. If somebody is homeless, however, and they have no way of heating the pouch, I would think that a low-cost way of fixing this is just providing them with a hatchet. There is some woods areas in the outskirts that can go and chop some wood with this hatchet. Also providing them with a pot to put water in there to boil, and some matches, like a big box of matches, and they'll be able to go ahead and start a fire that way to go ahead and warm the pouch. This town doesn't have a supermarket or a mall or anything like that. Most people grow their own vegetables, and most people grow their own livestock and stuff like that. They do have little tiny little huts almost and amongst their streets, which all their streets, none of them are paved, but they do have some of them some little huts there and there, and I will provide some free supplies for people who are homeless, be able to go there and be able to grab that for themselves if they run out. But for the most part, this would not be a problem for most families. And water in general, there is a creek that runs by this town, so there should be no problem as far as getting water to boil. In conclusion, there are 450 infant deaths every hour due to hypothermia worldwide, so this is actually a big issue. Not just in other countries, but even in the U.S. I think most people think that the U.S. is very fortunate, but there are places in the U.S. that actually gets very, very cold. And considering the homeless population, that might be an issue as well. But considering that this project is only on places outside the U.S., worldwide there are about 450 infant deaths every hour. Embrace costs less than 1% of a regular incubator, and to top it off, it is mobile. So very, very, very easy. Overall, I think it would be a great thing for San Miguel Zacatecas. It is a small town. Nobody goes there unless you're from there, so I think it'd be a great thing for them. I was 7 years old. I went and I had walkie-talkies, and it was talk of the town for months. They have never seen him before, and this was back in the 80s. So for them, it'd be a great thing. This project has actually already been implemented in South India. This was created for the people of South India because they statistically have a lot of infant deaths, and so far they've had great results. So I think if they had great results for that, why not bring it to somewhere else so that they might be able to use it. Also, Embrace is said to have revolutionary results when it comes to newborn care. And that is it. Thank you for listening, and